team, assemble!
It's back and bigger than ever. It's the unofficial 40 from Soonerscoop.com. Now, here's the entire Sooner Scoop crew. Carey, Josh, Eddie, and Bob.
All right, we are back. It is the unofficial 40 podcast right here at Soonerscoop.com and everywhere that you listen to podcasts. And the entire crew is back once again. I don't know about you guys, but it was a very odd weekend last weekend, just not having a football game to talk about or cover.
Or watching football teams that, hey, they know what they're doing.
Some of them. Not the one in L.A., but some of them. No, but, it's good to get that all behind us. We know now that the Sooners are headed to the Cheez-It Bowl, the happiest place on earth, Orlando, Florida. Thoughts? Happy?
There will be a game on December 29th. I don't know if it's going to go very well.
We're paying a whole lot of money to go, and nobody gives a shit.
Well, the thing about it is
best player opting out.
It's a really good opportunity for Oklahoma, but I think Florida State's pretty damn good.
Yeah.
I mean, they finished 13th in the college football playoff.
Yeah.
Yeah, with five straight wins, scoring at least 38 points in all 5 of those games. Jordan Travis announcing he's coming back for 2023. This is like their springboard. Where OU, I mean, they've just been teeter-tottering the entire season. No Eric Gray, no Anton Harrison. How is this going to work?
I mean, the biggest issue is that offensive line and not having Eric Gray. Like, Javonte Barnes, is the offense going to stall out? It's all on Dylan Gabriel's hands, to move that offense. Like, it's not a good setup. I will say, I did not force Eddie to go to this last time they had the Walmart Sweatpants Bowl.
It's my first time down in Orlando.
You get to go to the Rosen. You get to go to the Rosen.
What's that?
The hotel.
Oh.
Let's see if it's better 8 years
They
later.
apparently have a hospitality room there now. They didn't then.
No, they didn't.
We'll see about that.
I mean, they didn't even have media then. I mean, apparently we have some of that, so that's good. But no, I mean,
we think.
But you weren't there. But the last time OU played in this game, they got their heads kicked in 40-6 by Brent Venables' defense, and then they would turn around and went to the college football playoff the next year. They fired Josh Heupel. They brought in Lincoln Riley.
So Jackson Arnold just needs to come to the game.
If Jackson Arnold is
and
he Baker?
dance
Yep.
in front of everybody, go viral for that, and then everything will be okay. But I also, I don't know. We'll see where this thing is at here for the next couple weeks.
We'll see if Dylan Gabriel's still the quarterback next year. You better go out and buy his new merch, or he'll probably leave.
That's not the best selling point. Nobody's going to buy anything. No,
I was wondering that today. Like, did he do that as a test run? Like, do these people really want me here? If am I going to sell $10,000 in merch the first month?
I know that we've kind of talked about it a little bit, and it's obviously out there just because I guess people assume that he has to make some type of announcement either way. I just kind of take it that he's coming back.
Yeah,
right.
I don't think that there is any announcement that needs to be made.
He's a low-key guy. I mean, he's not about attention, really.
Yeah, I don't think there's so much that was put into the post-game comments coming out of Lubbock. That's the way he is after losses.
Yeah.
He's not that who is a good loser.
Well, in one game, he didn't even come in after losing.
Sure.
You didn't even talk to them.
Sure.
Either,
so I just kind of, I guess, operate assuming that he's coming back, and he's coming in off of arguably his best game of his career in an Oklahoma uniform. So.
Well, and I would also say that, Marvin Mims hasn't said anything either. Maybe he's just kind of doing it. Like, they prepare for the bowl game. They've got to be practicing with him. I
mean, Mims said he played in the bowl game. Yeah. Now, I know it was fresh. Yeah. It was right after the game, but
he's a little bit different just for the fact that I think he's waiting on a draft grade.
We're waiting for long term instead of the bowl game itself.
When do they usually get those draft grades? Isn't it between now and the beginning of the bowl game that they'll start getting those?
It's happening now. Yeah,
they'll start getting that information.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I wouldn't with him and Braden Willis and kind of guys that are in for the long haul here. Deshaun White, I wouldn't expect them. They're in. They're playing in the bowl game. They're preparing for the bowl game, all that kind of stuff. It almost seems like, and I don't know this for a fact, but I would think that Brent Venables gave those guys hey, we need to know by this date if you're in or out.
Let's run through it. Offensive line wise, you're not going to have Anton Harrison. Brent already confirmed that.
Right.
You're not going to have Andrew Rame because he's still coming back from surgery.
That's right. And Wanye Morris.
And you're not going to have Wanye Morris. But, Guyton, I thought he played really well, and I think he wasn't he even kind of singled out, as someone that had really high draft grade overall in
just throughout the season.
No, in these last couple of games, I think, just played really well. So
sure.
I think he stabilizes you there. It's just what do you do with Harrison's spot?
You go Sexton or Parks.
Yeah. Jacob Sexton.
I think you got to go
people you barely seen all year.
Yep.
And I think Parks only played on he ran out there for 2 plays one game and then ran back because Harrison got
they've
banged
had
up.
that a couple times. Any uniforms type stuff. So yeah, I think you go Sexton.
But you know what you're going to get out of Congle at center.
Murray, McCade,
Matire. I mean, it's just I mean, it might not be as bad as I made it out in my head, but that left side is going to be the vulnerable side, I think, unless I want to move Guyton over there.
You got to bring
good
out
luck.
Sexton.
Good luck.
Maybe Jared
Good luck
Verse
with
will
everything.
opt out.
And the Wanye Morris thing was interesting because Josh, let's bring you in here. I mean, just the way that he announced it without mentioning Bill Biedenbaugh at all, I mean, seemed a little bit like there were some hard feelings there.
Yeah, I can't help but wonder, just the way it read. I mean, and maybe we're reading too much into that. I know I said something to you guys as soon as I read it, but
why would you go out of your way to mention
read
Pruitt though,
funny.
and not Bill? That's weird.
And it's just Jeremy Pruitt sent your life into chaos. I don't know why that's a good thing. And there's all, there was so much baggage and problems and leaving Tennessee for him and all that stuff. I'm like, I mean, I don't know the story or the relationship between those two, but the whole thing just read funny to me. I was like, I don't know. It may be a deal where you see these announcements where it's two paragraphs, but each paragraph is 2 or 3 sentences. Maybe that was the way to go. Maybe brevity is the answer there. And it was just I got to fill all this space. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with giving, some respect to both staffs you played for, but I don't know. It just felt weird that of all the people that would get the love, it's the guy that, got Tennessee in trouble, got all those players.
Couldn't wait a year to start cheating,
roster.
to start paying people.
Yeah.
By the way,
I just don't know that Josh Heupel
he sent his life into chaos, but he also gave him a lot of money. So I'm sure that he's very thankful for that.
He's trying to keep him quiet during
Right.
the draft process, so he doesn't say how much he was cheating. No, but what I find funny is you have that, and then you have the other end, which is Trace Ford's announcement, which was basically, I mean, it was. I can't remember exactly what it said, but it was kind of well, shit, I'm out.
It's been fascinating to watch the reactions out of Stillwater and Norman as, we've gone through the first, 48, 72 hours of it is different.
Yep.
And with Oklahoma, and I know we're talking about the bowl game and stuff, but it's so much different in the fact
We
that
don't need to anymore.
we'll have a couple weeks to talk about the bowl game. The whole thing is going to be, it's been interesting to watch from afar because it seems like Oklahoma State's losing guys that were going to be players within the program as opposed to, the happenings in Norman where they're legitimately outside of Theo Weiss hasn't been a guy that you go, well, shit, that's not good.
Yeah, I mean,
it's uncomfortable to say it like that, but there just isn't anybody out there right now that it's they're going to miss him.
Well, shout out to Stoop Bros, who's got a great, table on the board that's pinned on the Crimson Corner. But you look at his notes on everything, and it is didn't play. 0 tackles, 3 tackles, 4 snaps. I mean,
even a guy like Clayton Smith, it's still you look back at it, he played in 8 games over 2 years and didn't register a sack. Didn't register a sack in a single game.
But I
Didn't
will
even
say
get
this.
close to a
I will
quarterback.
say this. I do have concerns about the receiver position, and
that's why they've made offers.
yeah, and they've made tons of offers. But I never saw Trayvon West or Brian Darby as guys that just weren't capable of playing on this level. You would see both of those guys flash, and
Yeah.
they never got much of an opportunity, and I could see them being
Well,
frustrated.
one
wanting
was
to leave.
never freed.
Right.
That's
yeah.
right.
No, yeah, like those guys could be contributors, but are they going to be like, Biletnikoff watch list guys even?
No.
Like, probably not.
Well, and to me, Josh, I think that's one of the bigger concerns, too, of the offseason. And I know people have expected all these coaching changes to be made and whatever, but getting a guy that is a elite recruiter and a wide receivers coach, like, to me, is the one thing in this program that I'm most concerned about.
And on top of that, is there a chance that they just stay with LaDainian Washington? Like, I think we've just all assumed that stuff.
Well, like, you can't make assumptions just because he's visiting guys.
Sure.
Because
No,
you got to have
sure.
somebody on the road.
But wouldn't they have tried to make a move? I don't know. Go ahead, Josh. I'm rambling.
No, you're fine. And I mean, I think there's room for that because I think we don't know what LaDainian Washington is. I think there was a feeling, and we talked about it at the time of Anthony Evans' commitment, that, well, maybe this is a really positive sign for what he is as a recruiter, because Anthony had told me that he really liked LaDainian Washington, really had a good relationship with him when all the Cale Gundy news came out. It was kind of like, oh, yeah, this isn't going to change the way I look at Oklahoma. I like a lot of guys there, and LaDainian's one of them. But, yeah, what I will say, Carey, and I agree with you. Like, I mean, you got to have everybody you can out on the road. But it does feel like he's very involved with it. It doesn't feel like I'm seeing these wide receivers like tweeting out offers and there's no, like, LaDainian Washington's not following the guy.
Correct.
Or LaDainian Washington's not mentioning the tweet. Like, it feels like he's involved in what's happening. And so I think that's a interesting sign that I almost like this is, I don't know, like, is it an audition maybe? Like, is there a, hey, you go and help us get a Dominic Lovett from Missouri, who obviously he's got a relationship with. Like, if you could help, Oklahoma with some of those guys, maybe it does come together. Because, I didn't hear anything through the season that any of the players had a problem with him. Or, like, I never heard, like, there was any kind of, discord about what was happening with him in that receiver room. And I know the recruits like him.
I guess what I should have asked is there a more realistic chance that they keep LaDainian Washington on staff than us just almost going about and assuming, oh, yeah, they're making a move or they're making a change?
I think there is. I think there's a very real chance. Now, I still – it's so hard to know because there's such an easy reason for Oklahoma to not be in overdrive about their wide receiver situation, because we all know, kind of like Jay Valai last year, they're willing to wait.
Sure.
They'll wait until January if they need to, and
Sure.
if that's what it's going to be. So it's kind of hard to gauge that because, I mean, that's a Brent call. Like, I mean, and, that is one guy and his opinion and how he sees things. And if you made me pick today, I still would bet it's probably Malcolm Kelly, but I think LaDainian Washington, I don't think he's done anything that makes you say, well, it can't be him. Like, that he can't be the answer.
I guess the only question would be the development of the guys throughout the course of the year, because we all said it. It was Mims, it was Farouk, it was Stoops. Those were the three guys that played. So is that a Levy decision? Is that Washington not developing the Bunkley Sheltons and West and Darby and the other guys who are already on campus? And that's that's all we have to go off of is what we've seen on Saturday. And on Saturday, we basically just saw the three receivers all the time with Theo Weiss sprinkled in every now and then.
Yeah, I mean, you guys, you got to see them. You talked with them. Like, that, to me, I felt like wide receiver play was pretty solid. There were just those moments that were just stretches of games that were just catastrophically bad. And I don't know. I mean, like, I don't think LaDainian Washington was suddenly teaching Marvin Mims something where, I can't catch anymore. Like, I don't know what that is. But, like, there were some weird anomalies that are kind of hard to explain. And, what I will say, and I know this kind of got put to bed yesterday, but you don't fix those things with a guy who's never coached receivers. Like, I never understood the Rashad Samples answer. And I'm a guy, I covered Rashad. Like, I know him. I like Rashad.
I was there
like,
when he broke his
that.
he hurt himself at the Nike camp. I was there.
But the idea that a guy that spent his career coaching running backs is going to fix the receiver room. Like, I mean, like, I know people say, well, what about Cale Gundy? Cale Gundy's been a coach for 20 years. He's coached everything. He's coached
and an elite recruiter. So
yeah, like, and I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, Samples in Dallas with what Oklahoma already has, Oklahoma would do some serious damage in recruiting in Dallas. Like, there's no question. His relationships are, I mean, unparalleled at the city's most talent-rich program. So, that's unbelievable. But at the same time, like,
you think that Malcolm Kelly, if he took the job, like, I'd almost stay away from the job, because you know what happens if he takes that job? He has to go in and do the freestyle rap in every home across America. Like, that would just be exhausting after a while.
He just like brings like a tape with him. He just got like his little VHS and a recorder, and he just pops it in. Like, here, let's just watch it and get this done.
Like the and one tape. That and one 30 for 30 was fantastic. No, but I'm joking, of course. But the whole thing about LaDainian Washington is like, it could work. I mean, it
could.
Here's the thing with Washington is I want to see. If he takes the job, I want to see him play more receivers. Like, you can't go through another season just playing 3 guys, basically. Like, you're losing guys because of the way you managed your receivers during games this year.
So it's nice you give him the shout-out on social media. You're quote tweeting him, wishing him the best, but we need to see Jaden Gibson. Jaden Gibson needs to be playing in the bowl game.
Yes.
Period.
Just got to catch it.
I mean, guys, like, was that – and I'm always interested in, like, what are your thoughts? Like, it feels like a chicken or the egg conversation. Did the young guys not play because there weren't many big leads this season? Or was there did the team wear down at times because the young guys didn't play? Like, I can't ever understand how I feel about that, because – I mean, like, guys, you look at it. People can talk about, oh, Danny Stutzman have these great stretches. Danny Stutzman played damn near every snap this year.
Yep.
Like, you get it if by the end of the season that kid was freaking tired.
He was
Pat
Fields and Turner Yell from the previous years.
It seemed like
exactly.
It seemed like sometimes they wanted to get guys in, and then they almost had this plan. Okay, we're going to try to get these guys in, and then all of a sudden you look up and you're down 17-3. And you can't necessarily just run them out there.
Or you keep getting 3 and outs every time.
It just seemed like it never got going enough to where they could feel comfortable with throwing a guy in here or there.
Yeah, I'd say the defense wore down a lot more than the offense. I mean, the offense wasn't out there long enough to wear out. Like, it just wasn't. I mean,
they didn't have
drives were
enough
never
plays
even
to get those guys
were,
out there.
Were short.
Yeah, it all goes back to this idea that they got to find a way to slow down. Like, I'm sick of this hurry up offense when you're not a hurry up offense.
Well, just hurry up for hurry up's sake.
Right. Like, there's no reason to it.
Right. Well, and the thing about, like, the way it'll played out and defensively, just like, I think they kind of solved that players looking tired. Like, yes, they gave up a drive to West Virginia at the end. They gave up a drive to Texas Tech at the end, but they didn't seem like that team that just completely fell apart in the second half against Kansas State.
There was only maybe one time in, like, the Baylor game where everything kind of fell apart after you weren't able to get off the field.
But the OSU game, they were great.
Yeah, they played well. But then again, it's like you look back at the times that they played well defensively, it's not against very good offenses.
Yeah.
Like, they found ways against not very good offenses, and when they did play decently good offenses, things collapsed a little bit, and that's why I don't feel too comfortable in saying that they're going to go win a bowl game, because I think Jordan Travis is going to have his way with some of these guys.
They've done really well with mobile quarterbacks this year, Eddie. That's really been a sign of strength.
Right. Yeah, that's great. It's real fun.
By the way, speaking of the portal, wouldn't it be the best thing for, like, a guy like JT Daniels just to go somewhere and be a backup that doesn't have a backup? Like, You've lost a starting job 3 times. It's been handed to you.
I'd just stay in Morgantown and party. I don't like. Give it up, dude.
Go to the next Power 5. You got to hit them all.
Keaton Slovis, you're right there with him. I mean, just go somewhere and be a backup.
There
Just go in. Like, you'll be happy knowing that you don't have to win a starting job.
There are some guys that keep entering the transfer portal. It's just like, hey, man, maybe instead of going back into the portal, you need to buy a big-ass mirror and just look at yourself because it's obviously not them.
Right.
It's you.
It's happened over and over and over again.
Right. It's like a golfer that keeps going back and changing clubs. Maybe it's not the club. It's the operator of the club.
Well,
I mean,
don't mess
guys,
with the golf industry, all right? You're screwing with their money right now.
Oh, they'll be fine.
You know new clubs change.
He's
They'll be
got to
fine.
be headed with Coach Prime, right?
Ooh.
Like JT Daniels looks like a guy
Ooh.
that could enjoy some of the
finer things
that
about a
Colorado
Boulder.
A Boulder. There you go.
Yes. JT Daniels looks like a guy that could absolutely just be an everyday student in Boulder, like 100%.
Yeah.
And he gets, I mean, like, think about the book that dude could write, like from his USC time to Georgia to West Virginia and then to end it with Coach Prime. Like that dude, I don't even know if he's literate, but he could write a book I'd want to.
The fun thing is, if it does end there and he sucks, Dion might kill him. So that would be the perfect ending.
I mean, I was thinking about this the other day. Like, so he's a graduate transfer. Do they just not have a rule anymore where like your last 60 hours has to be at the school you graduate from? They did when I was in school.
What do you mean?
Yeah.
Like because I
Like the
played
university.
baseball in JUCO, and then I would go to Cameron in the summer and get some credits there. But then I was at OSU for a year, and then I was at OU. But
You're saying like does the school?
like yeah, I mean I had like all these credits toward my degree, but you had to get a certain amount
At that school
at
that you
the
graduate.
school that you're graduating from.
I have no idea.
Like, I don't know if that. I mean, how does JT Daniels? I mean, he had
Like, where would he technically graduate from?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like what
Yeah.
or what major does he need to pick
did
to
he-
try to find another school?
What if it turns out like he graduated from USC because most of his hours came from there or something? I
That'd be
mean,
fun.
But you can't.
I know a
take
social
classes
media
at
team
one
that would probably
school
put
and
him on
get
a poster
degree
if they
from
could.
another, like to finish it up. I didn't get that at all. To go back and listen. No, but it's just like that's the university part of it. Kind of. There's a lot of things about all this stuff that doesn't make a lot of sense. But I think the main thing is, yes, it's a you problem. It's not a school problem.
I
If
think
you're
that-
transferring 4 times.
The other thing about the transfer portal that's been interesting here is even like a Texas A&M or a Oklahoma State. They have a bunch of guys that have been in. OU's kind of in the same boat. There are a lot of names, and I'm just like, I don't know who that is.
I don't know what position he plays.
Like,
I don't know what year he is.
Like it's obviously for a bunch of guys that are trying to move around. You're gonna have your big names like DJ coming out of Clemson. That's a big one. Haynes King. That's obviously a big one. But it was expected, wasn't it? Some of these guys.
yeah,
just
there's a
wanna
lot
get
of
on the field.
quarterbacks like Drew Pine.
But for the most part, I would say like 70% of the transfer portal guys are just guys that I don't know what they're looking for. You're not not going to find a new place to play.
Right now, OU is number 1 in the Rivals transfer portal rankings. I mean, because they got one guy. Like, it's not like everybody's, so much was made last year when Lincoln Riley got Caleb Williams and Jordan Addison and then Mario Williams. Like,
Right.
the transfers, and they were like, oh, you can build your team through the transfer portal.
Right.
You really can't. I mean, there's not enough good people. Like, and let's be fair, Lincoln Riley basically got Jordan Addison through free agency. It wasn't really the portal.
Sure. Not normally are you going to find a Biletnikoff winner looking to change places.
Right. It doesn't happen.
And obviously he was losing a guy that, ended up being the runner-up of the Heisman Trophy, obviously starting for the Pittsburgh Steelers now. But, like, I'm just looking through, like, all the names of these guys that are in the transfer portal right now.
Now that we've seen Davis Bevel, maybe he didn't.
Maybe we have a little
Have to work that
PTSD
hard.
from transfer portal quarterbacks. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm just saying maybe it wasn't such a – if he thought he still had Davis Bevel as quarterback, he might have.
Like the Jake Smith kid entered yesterday from USC. I completely forgot about him.
That he left
I
Texas.
He was like a good player coming out.
He was like a top 50 player.
And there
coming out of
are
high
good
school.
players. I'm not saying that there aren't good players in the portal. There's gonna be guys that are gonna find homes that are gonna contribute places. But for the most part, like outside of maybe like a Jacob Lacey that's coming into Norman that you hope contributes next year, like
the names that
know.
resonate through the first 3 days are from lower schools that are making the jump up.
Sure.
Now
That's a different story.
Right. Not Power 5.
Right,
Oh,
yeah.
this guy's going to leave and he's going to be awesome. I mean, because
Like everybody was jumping on those Ivy League offensive linemen when they were coming. They were like the first guys to say they were leaving. But yeah, you're right. It's like, look at the portal for OU last year. Like we all thought, oh, well, Jeffrey Johnson's going to be a great fit at Oklahoma. And he was just okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
and there's
really, no one would have said, oh, CJ Colden's the guy who's going to be the best guy out of the portal.
Sure. There's going to be guys that are still out there, like maybe Oklahoma gets on a Miles Slusher or somebody like that, like the McCulloch kid who I'm sure we're going to talk about could come in and be a difference maker. He could come in and probably, be a big contributor on Oklahoma's defense in 2023. But
and the 4 playoff teams.
sure.
You never know what's going to happen.
Sure. It just, I don't know. I guess I've been overwhelmed by the amount of players,
Who was the
but
linebacker?
underwhelmed by how good some of these guys
Yeah,
are.
for sure.
Who was the linebacker from a small? He was a group of 5 guy that went in the portal yesterday. It was like from
Coastal
Wyoming or
Carolina
something.
guy, that Josiah Stewart or something. Like he's blowing up.
Yeah, I mean there was. I just knew
There's
there was
a
linebacker that
couple
was blowing
names,
up.
yeah, that are gonna
And
take
there's-
off, and that when OU offers,
Oh
don't,
no, it was a Louisiana Tech kid, wasn't it? Like a linebacker that was like all AC, all AAC or
Oh,
whatever.
yeah. I forget his name. Max was tweeting about him, though. Because we were here when that happened.
Okay. Anyway, but I mean, Josh, let's just throw it to you. I mean, what are you hearing on the portal? OU's interest, where they might be interested in, where they definitely are interested in.
Yeah, I mean, you guys kind of touched on it earlier with the wide receivers. I mean, obviously that's where Oklahoma's been the most active. And, so like we publicly know Dante Cephas, that OU fans got to see or this season from Kent State, the wide receiver. Really, impressive guy. Like just has a lot. He was a guy that I mentioned when going over their tape, was a guy that I thought brought something to the table. Dorian Singer from Arizona, former walk-on, really kind of an interesting story. Picked up, his scholarship from Arizona after his first year, and really just a guy with incredible hands. Like that's what I noticed when I watch his tape. Like he catches everything. And then Ra Thomas, the wide receiver from Mississippi State, very productive guy. And I think that's what you see in all 3 of these guys. This isn't and I think that's what this staff is aiming for, is not because I've seen people get mad like, OU's not in on this former 5-star guy.
Right.
And it's like,
Christian Leary,
that guy hasn't
for
done
example.
anything.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, and it's a kid I liked a lot in high school, so I'll own that. But like Tunmise Adelie, like he hasn't done anything at Texas A&M, and people are like, what is OU doing? Why aren't they on him? I get it. Like if you really felt strongly and you want to take a gamble and like we feel like that guy was really good. Okay, great. That's fine. But it's not like it's not understandable why you're not taking those changes. So what I'm trying to get at, though, is all 3 of these guys have been highly productive. And you throw in Dominic Lovett from Missouri, who I have every reason to believe has an Oklahoma offer, but he's not really tweeting it and being active, so it's a little harder to gauge. But I would be very surprised if he doesn't have an opportunity from Oklahoma. Another guy is Dante Thornton, the wide receiver from Oregon, that I know has excited a lot of people. Kind of had a nice end to the season after Oregon went through some injury stuff. So he's a big guy, 6'5", 200, very reminiscent of the guy OU's about to see in the Cheez-It Bowl, Johnny Wilson, big, long receiver from Oregon with some ability to go up over the top. So those are the, I think that's the position where you've seen the most fireworks. the guy that intrigues me the most, I mean, it's Deshaun McCullough, the kid from Indiana. That's a guy, kind of an edge outside linebacker.
That's cheetah, right?
Type of
Yeah.
guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's where I would guess he ends up. But this is a guy, and Bob Eddy, I don't even know if you remember it. We saw him at that
He was a
camp.
safety.
Yep.
And he was tremendous.
He was like a 6'4", 190-pound safety. I was like, that kid doesn't know it yet, but he's a linebacker.
Yep.
And it wasn't like, oh, he can't move. It's just like he's going to be 235 pounds in his sleep. Like, he is a massive human being. And his little brother at the time, I think, was going into his freshman year, because I think this Day was just going into his freshman year, and Deshaun was going to be a sophomore or something, because they were super young at that point. That was that summer of 2020. So, I mean, like, there was a lot of time left for both those guys to kind of develop. But Oklahoma has a good relationship there. Their father, Dalen, that's the coach at Notre Dame, I believe running backs, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Is friends with Jay Valai. So there is
from their time together with the Chiefs.
And guys, I can't help but wonder. Like, it feels a little like OU was playing chess while some other people were playing checkers here, because things have fallen incredibly interestingly here. So they go after Day, I believe it's how you say that. I think that's right. And offer him like 6 weeks ago, kind of out of nowhere. And you're like, that's kind of an interesting offer, because, he's committed to Cincinnati. Kid lives in the north. His family's up in South Bend. Like, it makes a lot of sense that he would stick with Cincinnati and Luke Fickell. Well, then Luke Fickell randomly takes the Wisconsin job. Okay, and now you've got this situation where his brother has gone into the portal, which isn't overly surprising. Indiana obviously had a really tough year, and he went there originally to play for his dad or play with his dad, whatever. So I'm like, man, did they kind of see this falling? Like, were they watching the dominoes a little bit here? Because they seem like they're in prime position to get both the McCullough brothers. And I mean, those are Deshaun, like I said, I mean, was one of the better freshman defenders in the country this year. And Day is a guy that's 6'2", 220 and can move. Like, I mean, you can find a way to use that dude. Like, I don't know what he's going to be just yet, but there's a lot of talent there. For you to be able to reel those guys in late is a potentially really impressive win.
Is that almost and like, as you're explaining that, I'm kind of thinking to myself, does that explain more maybe like a Jordan Mukes entrance into the portal, where they were like, we need to open up a spot back here. Well, why don't you go look somewhere else, because we have somebody else coming in.
Yeah, maybe they gave Jordan a shot throughout the season on scout team and stuff to see if he can learn it. Like, well, it'd still be a process, but we know this kid could if we brought him in now.
And it's almost a 2-for-1. Like, of course, you're going to bring that kid in if you can get the brother as well, because he could give you immediate help.
And there was some talk from Choctaw folks like, oh, he doesn't fit the system. And I'm like, he feels like a tailor-made cheetah to me. Like, that feels like that's exactly what it's supposed to look like. And I mean, again, you don't know what practice looks like, and whatever the reasoning may be. But Jordan's a talented guy. Like, I'm kind of interested to see where he falls and kind of what the temperature is for him around college football, because guys that are big and fast and can run, I mean, or big and fast. That's twice, but whatever. Big and can run. You feel like there's a home for those guys, especially coming out of a program like Oklahoma's. So, but yeah, one of the ones that's interesting to me is Caleb Banks, the kid from Louisville that picked up an offer late last night. Yep. Like 6'7", 300 pounds, like got a basketball background. I think he is very interesting. And then you look at, they've already had some success with a guy like Kenai Walker coming out of the same program. It's almost like, okay, we kind of like whatever Scott Satterfield was finding, we kind of see some quality there. So I think that's going to be an interesting one to follow. He's one I've reached out to, have not heard back from yet, just kind of waiting to get a little bit more information from him. But, and the only other defensive line offer they've made so far is the Braden Fisk kid from Western Michigan that kind of a very different type that has played a lot of football, like 150 tackles in his career, that kind of stuff. And Carey already did it, but I do want to shout out Stoops Bros on the board. His little reference table is incredible. Like it saves me so, like, I can streamline a lot of the stuff I do as I'm trying to collect information from the guys. I'm like, okay, we know this has happened, and that is a underappreciated part of the board sometimes is somebody like Stoops Bros that brings a lot of great information. So
that's okay. Some of your paychecks going to him this month anyway. So
that's all right. It probably deserved. So, but yeah. So I mean, like I said, there are, I think at this point, 9 to 10 offers. Like I said, I'm pretty sure Dominic Lovett has one, but I don't know that for fact. So I don't want to report that as 100%. But there, I mean, it'll double in time. Like, because I mean, I think a guy that I would really keep an eye on is a Johnny Cornelius kid from Rhode Island, the big offensive lineman that everybody's excited about. Watching him on tape, you're like, yeah, that's an NFL guy. Like, I don't know how the hell you ended up at Rhode Island, kid, but like that's one of those guys, kind of like Jared Verse last year, where everybody knew, like, I don't care what school he's coming from, he's special.
I think I know how I want to pay off Stoops Bros. Stoops Bros, get in touch with me. And I'll send you a big old pack of prime shrimp. How about that? Because they got a new flavor. Josh's mouth is watering because he knows his is on the way today. New Orleans style barbecue. They just released it. It's been like in development for I think a year. Davis told me. Just crazy, and I can't wait to try it because I love barbecue shrimp too. But look, it's no thaw, no mess, no fuss. Restaurant quality food. You get you can order all kinds of different packs, or just order them individually if you want to get the new New Orleans barbecue shrimp. But also the garlic herb butters out there. If you like the New Orleans flavors, you can go with the signature seasoned or the Louisiana shrimp boil. They got the lemon and cracked pepper as well, which is really good. So go check them out. Primeshrimp.com, PRIME shrimp.com. No affiliation with Deion Sanders or Colorado Buffaloes. But put in that code Sooner Scoop and you'll get $20 off your first order. So you can get that first order and get yourself $20 off and try the New Orleans style barbecue shrimp. So primeshrimp.com, great partners, great sponsors of the show. Go out and support them. They support us. So,
Tyler Grubbs was the name of the Louisiana Tech linebacker that we were thinking of.
I love that name. So, yeah, I mean, in the middle of all this, Josh, then you have recruiting. And like you said, you've got guys that are transfer portal guys visiting this weekend, regular recruits. I know they had the lights on last night late. I think they're probably going through some stuff.
One name that we didn't mention in the transfer portal segment, Austin Stogner.
Austin Stogner.
Yes, Austin Stogner.
Oh, yes.
I think it's, I don't want to say official, but I would be slightly surprised if there's not a reunion there, which I can't think of a guy that left a school, went to somewhere else, and then went back to a school through the transfer portal. I don't know if that's ever happened yet.
Let's see. There was, who was it? The quarterback at Cincinnati, the Bryant kid, left, went to somewhere small, basically played a year, got his feet under him, and then transferred back to Cincinnati once. The kid Desmond Ridder left last year and then was the starter this year. And I can't remember where he went for that 1 year in between. Like, I want to say it was Mac and then came back. But like there's nobody like Stogner that left a starting role, went somewhere else, played and was successful, and then came back and is, figures to be a part of things immediately once he returns.
Sure.
That's just the way it's going to work now, too. There's going to be no, bitter feeling, I don't want to bring him back. He left us. That's not going to exist.
Not when your tight end room is as empty as OU's is right now.
Yeah. It's like recruiting, Bob. I mean, I remember when we would talk about the whole deal with, CeeDee Lamb and how OU in the past would have gotten pissed and walked away from CeeDee Lamb. And, to Dennis Simmons' credit, he was like, nope, we're going to keep recruiting that kid. And, they get him and they get one of the all-time best at Oklahoma. So, that's you can't operate like that anymore. You can't be in your feelings about this stuff because that coach doesn't know. He may get an opportunity to coach that kid again someday. He may end up at that school. You just never know. Everything, it's like sliding doors all the time.
Yeah, I mean, that would be kind of cool if it played out like it did. I mean,
Yeah, it'd be fun.
It'd also be kind of a nice little feather in Oklahoma's cap, like, hey, we've had people leave in the portal, then go play somewhere else and come back because this place is so special.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's some credit due to Joe John Finley, because I mean, there's a lot that's changed at Oklahoma, but Finley still being there clearly is a sign of comfort. I mean, that makes it easier for Austin Stardner to walk back through that door.
And he's tall enough where Dylan Gabriel might be able to throw the ball across the middle for once.
I feel like we've gone a few pods without the redneck voice.
There's going to be a couple people mad about that. I don't care. I mean, I don't want the guff on the boards about it, but I don't know why people get so upset about that. No, but I mean, I think that's a legit thing. Like having a tall guy for Dylan Gabriel, because I think because of his size, he doesn't see down the middle of the field as well. So I mean,
No, I think that's a real thing.
yeah, it's kind of just go to his PFF stats and look and see how many passes he's completed and thrown in the middle of the field this year. Okay, so the recruiting side of it, Josh, I mean, I know the Peyton Bowen is the main thing that most people want to know about. David Hicks, obviously. But what's kind of your read on this? I know last time we talked, you were kind of pushing back against the thought of Hicks ending up in Oklahoma. Where are you this week?
It feels like A&M is solidifying themselves a little bit, but with A&M, like, it's just so chaotic. Like, I don't trust any of it from week to week. And I know, like, OU fans are like, yeah, that's 6-6. Like, yeah, but there's not all this other stuff. Like A&M, it feels like constantly you're just waiting for that other shoe to fall, and it hasn't yet. And they seem to be riding the ship a little bit, and you kind of wonder, like, well, how are they doing that? And we'll see. I mean, like with Hicks, I know some people are like, oh, OU's out of it. No, I'm not ready to say that at all. Like, there is too much that can change with that kid, and everything moves really fast with him. But if you made me pick right now, I'd probably pick A&M. But like, it's close. It really is. I know, his they had Todd Bates in home on Saturday night. Talked to his dad a little bit about that. Just kind of said, Coach Bates always makes a good impression, kind of was joking around about, Todd Bates just being a bit of a character. So, and I think with Peyton Bowen, I feel very much the opposite. Like, I feel like there's a lot pointing to Oklahoma right now. I know, you continue to hear reports like, oh, some Notre Dame people feel good and that kind of thing. Like, yeah, but I don't know. Like, I don't know. At this point, it feels like Notre Dame is basically hanging on to the relationship they have with his mother, which is always important. It always is. But OU fans can probably not count on all their fingers and toes how many times mom was won over and the kid went and did what he wanted to do. And I think that's what this is probably going to look like. Like, it's from what I can gather, it sounds like mom is becoming okay with the idea of him going to Oklahoma. It may not be what she would choose for him or exactly what she wants, but it sounds like it's becoming like, okay, that's going to be okay with me. Like, I like the staff. I know the people, that kind of thing. I think they've done a good job building that bridge with her.
I cannot get Landon Collins out of my mind when you start talking about moms and
all-time mom moment. I mean, it's truly an all-time mom moment.
I mean, it was fantastic.
Sitting in the San Antonio hotel as we watched that unfold was like an unforgettable moment.
And I want to be really careful because, like, I don't want to make it sound like that. She's not some, like,
no
offense to Landon Collins' mama. She's not some crazy
Didn't she
lady.
look at the camera and she said LSU is number one?
Yeah, like, and it was just because she was a huge LSU fan.
Yeah.
Like, from what I can gather, mom, like, obviously the academics, the life after college and all the connections you make being a Notre Dame, like, I get all that. Like, I think that's what it's really about.
I mean, there's no denying that.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, if Denton Geyer wasn't still alive in the playoffs, chasing a state championship, and they have a semifinal game against DeSoto coming up this weekend, would he already be committed? Like, with the flip, it's almost to the point, it's like, you're almost doing Notre Dame a disservice. Like, just decommit. Like, get it over with.
Yeah. And that's And Eddie, it's interesting because I could argue that either way. Because I could say, okay, he does that. Well, then you invite the circus down or whatever. And
yeah,
at the same time, I'm like, are you not almost making it more of a circus by dragging it out like this when everybody knows there's smoke in the air?
Right.
Like, yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it's possible he sticks with Notre Dame. I don't think that's what's going to happen, but it's possible. And are you making life harder on everybody because they all have to deal with the questions? They all have to answer I mean, Lord knows Jackson Arnold gets hit up by, maybe numerous people, but certainly singular people almost daily about the Peyton Bowen sweepstakes. So we'll see. Like I said, I just, to me, there's a part of me that thinks like he's just going to sign with Oklahoma on signing day and not have to explain it. Like, I don't want to mess with this anymore. I've done all this. Like, I'm just done here. Like that's almost my feeling. Now, talking to Peyton, I feel like he is going to be more direct than that. But at the same time, he's a high school kid, man. Like, sometimes they take the easy way out. It's not, he wouldn't be the first.
Who was the kid, the defensive lineman that signed with Tech? And he was committed to OU the whole time.
Yeah, I always want to say Austin English, but that's not right.
No,
that's the
it's way after Austin English.
Was he?
He was from somewhere out there, right? It was somewhere out in the Panhandle.
He was from. I think he was from Canadian.
Yeah, he was from Canadian. That's why you're thinking about
Texas.
I can see him. I can see him, and I can see the setup that they had on that day.
White guy, blonde hair.
Yeah.
And there was OU stuff hanging everywhere.
Now that's gonna bug me.
Because there was literally only there was nobody out there covering it because nobody thought anything was happening, and then all of a sudden you see him, like, pictures of him start popping up on the internet of him like in a Texas Tech hat, and you're like, what the hell just happened? And there really was no explanation for any of it. I'm looking at 15, 14, like it's somewhere.
Oh my
in
God,
that
was it that far back?
Mark this.
Where the f*** you at, Bob? You're supposed to know this.
Well, I'm trying to think what year. I mean, I've been doing it since the 2012 class. None of this sounds familiar.
Because I remember, like I said, it popped up on Twitter. So it had to be Cooper Washington. Yeah, he was. From
That's it.
Muleshoe. He was from Muleshoe.
Oh my God!
We should have known.
Yeah,
Muleshoe, Texas is full of cowards and
bitches.
bitches.
You know the QAnon conspiracy we're going to be able to weave out of this?
Muleshoe isn't even a real place. Cooper, Washington. That's 100%. God.
From
Muleshoe.
From Muleshoe.
I can't believe it.
Holy shit.
I can't believe these from Muleshoe.
So Lincoln probably dicked over OU then too, because he probably went to Tech because
He's
of
probably
Lincoln.
recruiting him.
Yes. He probably went in and said that he'd have the townspeople burn his house down if he didn't switch his commitment.
And maybe they should have.
Allegedly.
I said probably.
Yeah. No, I'm just no. Wouldn't. God damn it! I hate it that wouldn't have worked, but that would not have worked. He was already at East Carolina. He went to East Carolina in 2010.
Well,
damn it.
Don't let facts get in the way of a good story. This is 2022.
Class. Exactly. That's why I was like, I would have remembered that 2011 class. I wasn't doing it.
Oh my God! So Tommy Tuberville recruited him? He fell for Tommy Tuberville's bullshit?
Possibly.
Because Leach would have been out of there by then, right?
Yeah.
We ask way too many questions with no answers. All right. So, sorry to take us off on that tangent.
No, that was
Cooper,
beautiful.
Washington.
That was beautiful. I can't believe that we landed all the way back then. But, no, like the fact of the matter is it seems like Peyton Bowen, things are headed in a very positive direction if they're not already there for Oklahoma. It is what it is.
I mean, obviously, Hicks and Bowen would be the two biggest guys that you could land that aren't committed, but
Siliakana.
What else is
the other guy. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And OU just finished in-home/in-school visit.
And for those that aren't recruiting 24/7, explain who Siliakana is.
Siliakana is the kind of outside linebacker edge. There's been some talk of him being a cheetah. I don't really see that when I watch him on tape. He looks like a future defensive end to me, but I mean, whatever. Like I said, the cheetah thing, like there's 74 guys on OU's roster next year that think they're going to be part of the Cheetah package. So that just seems to be a popular talking point. But this outside linebacker edge guy from Utah that Oklahoma's been in on since very early. And frankly, there was always this kind of quiet, like, Oklahoma's really engaged here. And a big part of it's been, I think Brent Venables has almost been his guy from day one. Like, Brent has made him a priority, has always worked very hard on recruiting to Silly. And what I found, and I talked about it in Scoop last week, when I had heard that Brent was kind of making his way around the West Coast. He was going to go see Ashton Sanders and Josiah Wagner, Heath Ozida, kind of go that way. Well, I had heard he might go by and see Tassili. And, like, if you look right now, like, Brent hasn't done his in-home with DJ Hicks. He hasn't done his in-home with Peyton Bowen. He hasn't, like, you go down the list of the major guys they've got left, they're not doing that because you wait until the very end. Wait until, either the guy is committed or you wait until the last possible in-home, and that's when you send in your big gun, your closer, your head coach. And he went this week. And I'm like, I don't know what that says, but it kind of screams confidence to me. Now, maybe it's possible it's just a travel thing where that was the only time, but it's a top 100 guy in the country. I don't really believe that OU couldn't find a way to get Brent Venables back out there for an in-home visit. So, and again, like, since the summer, there's always been this kind of quiet talk, like, OU's right there. Like, they're really in this thing. They might be the leader. I've heard Blair and Gulo talk some about it, a guy from 24/7 that I respect a lot that has a good relationship there. And he's mentioned the same thing, like some of the stuff I've heard. And it's all very interesting. And like I said, it would be a big win, kind of replace some of the Colton Vosick damage a little bit. Another elite edge rusher, big, long, athletic guy, kind of has a relationship. One of the things I thought was interesting was Jonah Lalu tweeting out that, we got to get him here. First of all, that there's a little bit more of a relationship there than I understood. And secondarily, I think it's probably indicative of what Jonah's looking at next year. So
Sure.
Maybe, Oklahoma gets to keep him around for one more season. So I think there is there's a chance they're going to land him. Like, I think if I bet right now, kind of like I was saying with Hicks, I'd bet on A&M. I think I would bet on Oklahoma at the moment.
Here's an interesting transfer portal entry. Washington State linebacker Francisco Mauigoa, I'll just say it. In the transfer portal, Mauigoa. He's the older brother of 2023 five-star Miami offensive line commit Francis Mauigoa. Is that whatever?
Mm-hmm. And just in the last, I hate to interrupt your thought here, Carey, Josh Ellison has entered the portal.
Okay.
Very good.
So, not a nothing loss. I mean, he's played some football for OU,
that's like truly the first one that you go, okay, well, that was a guy that they need defensive linemen.
Yeah.
They need defensive linemen.
Even before the portal, they needed.
The portal. That's right.
But now,
got your work cut out for you, Todd Bates.
I mean, you lost, three guys that were supposed to be true freshmen. You're supposed to be developing Alton Tarber, Cedric Roberts, Cavante Henry. So, I mean,
I'll put my hand up. Cedric Roberts was, I literally went, okay, now who is this?
I've been that on a couple of portal entries, yeah. But, yeah, Josh Ellison's not going to be that way. Yeah, I mean, it's, they really could use an extra year out of Jordan Kelly.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, guys, it's amazing. Like, you look at that defensive line class from last year, there was 4 guys. Half of them are gone. I mean, in all of your defensive tackles, you've got, I guess depending on how you want to look at Grayson Halton. You got Grayson Halton and R. Mason Thomas. Mm-hmm. Cavante Henry's gone. Cedric Roberts is gone. No, I'm sorry. 3 of the 5 are gone.
I just said this.
So,
thank you.
No,
when Josh was researching the portal,
Bob, I absolutely heard you. I'm just saying, like, that's 60% of your whole D-line class. Like, that's a stagger. Like, I don't care if you want to say, oh, those guys weren't great, they weren't whatever. that's a massive, like, you can't lose guys like that in year one.
That goes back to what we said, Josh, about when you try to do a furious close, there's going to be more misses than hits.
Yep.
And
yeah, we see that all the time. By the way, I want to remind you guys, Dead Soxy, great sponsor of the pod, DEADSOXY.com. They've they had the holiday sale going on, but you can still get 25% off if you use the promo code SCOOP. When you check out, you get 25% off your entire order. But we can't say enough about Dead Soxy. The guys that have bought them know it's just a great sock company doing lots of good things, and a lot of great selections there. The no-shows, the boardroom, the athletic. They've got the 3-pack tie-dyes, what I've got my eye on. I think I'm going to order some of those this week. But just go to their website, deadsoxy.com. They've been featured in just about every important men's health magazine or men's magazine. Everybody's starting to learn more about these guys. More people starting to wear their socks. So deadsoxy.com. Use that promo code SCOOP, and you'll get 25% off your entire order. And as always, stay soxy. This is something I wanted to talk about this week that I find it a little concerning, and we all like Bill Bedenbaugh, don't want to say that he does a bad job or anything like that, but is it a little concerning right now with development on the offensive line? Because you're coming off of a year where you had 4 of your 5 starters at the end of the year when Raym went out. They were all transfers.
Well, it's a little, and you're already saying, oh, well, Jake Taylor and Jacob Sexton are going to be your guys. It's like, okay, so that's your freshmen. Where are your sophomores? Where are your juniors?
Yeah.
This is a legitimate question.
When you start to talk about this program and development and all that, like, we all like Bill, but, man, he's got to be better. I mean, he's got to be better at evaluating and developing talent. Like, Anton Harrison, he gets full credit for. I mean, I think the Wanye Morris thing was back and forth because Bill coaches hard. And I don't think Wanye is a guy that responds to that as well. I think Raym will be really good in time, but he's young still, and I think he's the kind of guy that will take Bill's coaching. But I don't know. It just
is he young? He's already had 3 years.
Yeah, but I'm guessing just thinking of.
That's where you think.
I mean, Creed Humphrey was good right from the get-go, so he's certainly not on that path. But I don't know. I don't even know if you feel comfortable talking about this, Josh, but it's just one of those things. Like, I think it's an issue that we've got to start talking about.
Well, my biggest issue is, like, some of these extremely talented young guys, like, you've got to find some room for them. And I thought there were points of this in the year, like when they do the thing where the guys would come out for a series and they'd all go together. Like, okay, like, I kind of liked that. It was clearly a creative way to try and get some snaps. Because like we talked about early in the pod, like, you weren't getting those opportunities because you weren't beating teams by 40 like we've all seen OU do, where they get to get those young guys some reps and some familiarity. And like Savion Byrd, all we heard all summer and into the fall was like, this guy might start. Like, he's pushing for that left guard job. And he was a ghost.
Yep.
Like, you hardly saw him, and now you like have to wonder, like, can OU hang on to him? Because they really need to. Like, he needs to be the starting left guard or somewhere along that line next year. I agree with, like, Bob. Like, you feel good about Jake Taylor. You feel good about Jake Sexton. I think those are good, young, talented guys. In an ideal world, you're probably not having to start them in year 2,
Exactly.
at least not Sexton, where not only is he at left tackle, but Jake's always been kind of a long levered guy like that. You would like a little more time to put some weight on him, get him, further along in the weight room, that kind of stuff. Jake Taylor as a right guard. I think everybody knows, like, I'm all in on him being a really, really good player. And Tyler Guyton is, he's got a chance to be Bill's first round pick. Like, he really does. So I think in a lot of ways he's used the portal pretty well, but at the same time, like, you're right in that the high school development has not been where it needs to be. Like, there's just not enough guys. Because like Marcus Alexander, you bring him in,
Yep.
He's had no role. Bray Walker's now leaving, and Bray, I had questions about Bray, but I sure thought he'd do more than he did at Oklahoma. And it just, and now I will say, like in a case like Andrew Rame's a little bit of a tricky situation because his issue, kind of like I was talking about with Jake, was always going to be Jake Sexton was always going to be strength and power, like because he was a technician, he was very smart, he understood the position, all these great things, but he needed time in the weight room. Well, COVID hits when he enrolls. Okay, so he doesn't really get a normal off season. Okay, then he hurts his shoulder. Well, then he's hurt his shoulder again. Like he's never had a chance to sit there and be the meathead in the gym that just puts on 20 pounds and drinks creatine all day. Like there's never been that moment for him. So it's made it hard for him to develop. But like I thought this year we saw flashes of Andrew Rame being a pretty good player. So like I said, there is a way I can convince myself that OU's line next year is far more talented, but they've got almost no experience. And that's where it gets scary because that's kind of been the hallmark for Bill Bedenbaugh. Like his lines, as they have time to play together and gel, they become very good, like nationally elite groups. But when they're kind of mismatched and they're young guys, like it seems like the growing pains at times are pretty extreme.
Yeah, they've just had a lot of misses. EJ Noma, Ogar, Noah Nelson, what happened there? Aaron Parks, there's times that we forget that he's on the roster. There's times he's not warming up. There are weeks where Aaron Parks is not a part of the group that's actually there, and then there's weeks that he is. So that you don't have a clue where he stands. Marcus Hicks, he made the move, but I don't know if he's ever going to amount to anything. Nate Anderson just kind of floundering. Like the hit-to-miss ratio of the last 3-4 classes has not been very good.
All right.
Nate Anderson's one of the ones that probably bothers me more than any other. Like, because Nate, kind of like Rame, strength, he was a lighter guy. He always was, but like, you knew that. You knew he was a converted tight end. You knew he was about 255 pounds when he signed with OU. Like, I don't know. Like, was this the plan? Like, because I know, Nate early on felt really good about maybe becoming a center at Oklahoma. But now that Oklahoma has no real relationship with his younger brother, Max, who's turning into a pretty good recruit, you're like, there's something missing there. Like, there's some part of the story that I don't have.
I don't appreciate your Bill Bedenbaugh bashing.
You brought it up. You started it.
I know, it's just something that was on my mind. So anyway, outside of all that, we're hoping that maybe we get some media access before they go to the bowl game. But I know Bob and Eddie, you'll be flying out Christmas evening. Got you the latest flight possible. I don't even want to see that shit show in Orlando on the 26th. That looks terrible. There was like 0 flights available. 30th probably won't be.
Oh, at the airport. At the airport, you're talking about?
Yeah.
No, thank you.
I would want to get in and out. I think flying in there late on Christmas is the best possible time that you could have gotten there.
Yep.
So, anyway, I know there was a basketball game last night. It wasn't well attended. It was ended up being a blowout win. It was at times hard to watch.
Very, very hard to watch. First half.
So, I mean, you come off the loss of Villanova, which I know you declared that you cannot lose that game, and they lost that game.
I did. Well, they got their
star back,
their guy back.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's a little more. That might become a real storyline for Nova in their tournament is how they played when Whitmore with the team compared to how they did.
But Oklahoma State beat the team that beat OU to start the season. We all know Oklahoma State hasn't played very well this year. So where is this basketball team right now?
They get to play Arkansas. Get to play their biggest game of the season. Go to Tulsa Saturday to see it. But I mean, you go back to Tuesday. Yeah, Grant Sherfield can cook, as Porter Moser loves to phrase it, and yeah, he can take over a game. But you shouldn't have to do that against the Roos. You're going to need that Sherfield against Kansas and against Texas. You shouldn't need it on a midweek non-conference game against UMKC. So that's a little disturbing, but,
How disappointing is the usage or development of Jalen Hill been?
What do you mean?
He's the same
I mean,
guy.
I thought he was gonna. He showed times last year that he could be a premier player.
And I think he's dealing with that hit when he got smacked against Nova and playing with the mask. I'm sure he wasn't
he was wearing that mask
comfortable.
last night.
It's
He
more
broke his nose.
Yeah, it's more the Joe Bamisil type thing
Yeah.
that you're like, wait a minute, how did you went from 16 points per game at George Washington to looking like you don't even know how to dribble when you play for 5 minutes Tuesday.
Yeah.
So there's guys, and that's what I asked Porter about, and Porter keeps reiterating it too. I can't lose them. I can't lose a CJ Nolan or take a Owe. Like, I know if they're going through rough patches, they can't lose themselves either. They have to keep fighting. I'll keep fighting with them because we're going to need to be as deep as humanly possible to try to make a run when conference play gets here.
They need some of those guys to develop and continue to develop, but there are a lot of positives.
Yes.
Obviously, Grant Sherfield's been a positive. I think Los has been unbelievable. He's going to be a really good player. Bijan seems like he's starting to be more comfortable with the role that he's been given. I mean, basically, if they could start 6 guys, I think that they would throw Bijan out there. Listening to Porter talk, I think he loves how he distributes the basketball, but Sam Godwin's been almost a godsend just as far as what they're getting out of him. Another really positive night last night. Doesn't miss a shot from the floor. 10 points on the night. So, it's somewhere in between. It's like the Joe Bamisil thing. I just don't think that he trusts them any.
Right.
And he doesn't put him out there, and then he loses confidence, and he truly doesn't look like he should be playing basketball.
Same with Ortega. When he came in with three minutes ago, the first thing he did is didn't catch the ball, and it led to a fast break going the other way. It's like when guys that are used to being on the court for minutes and minutes, and all of a sudden now they're being shifted to the bench and barely even playing, that confidence suffers, and sometimes you have to roll with that. You got to let them work their way out of it too, and that's what I want to see with CJ Nolan. Because I asked about CJ Monday, and then boom, he's not starting. And it's he hasn't been playing
He
up.
shouldn't be, right
Yeah,
now.
he's not playing up to that level. Well, that's, you can't sulk about that. It's got to be a wake-up call, and it's got to be, to where you force Porter to put you back in that lineup, no matter what Los is doing, that you're too good in what you've been, because that's what Los just did. Los was too good in the minutes that he's being given in the first couple weeks of the season. He earned the right to be the starter.
In one of the 2 shots that CJ Nolan took last night, he drove the lane and just missed a layup terribly.
Yes.
It seemed like that was a very forced possession.
Yep.
I got the ball in my hands. I need to go do something right now, as opposed to just letting it come to you. And, Los has been really good as far as taking a shot when he can get it. But, the way he distributes the ball has been really good as well.
Yeah, he had 5 assists yesterday. Could have had a heck of a lot more. All those shots they missed in the first half, there's really no rhyme or reason to it. Wide open threes, wide open shots, 2-3 feet away from the basket. They just didn't go. And, they're not going to be able to do that against the Razorbacks and still be in contention come second half.
All right. I know you're up against some stuff, Bob, and I know Josh is probably knocked off now. And
I did want to ask Josh. I know a lot of commits coming in this weekend. We know Day is coming in. Is anyone else you think maybe a surprise official visit, or anyone else that should be wondering about here?
Well, like we've talked about, there's not really that room for a lot of. There's not many visitors left on their board. There's just not many guys that haven't already taken their officials. Now, I will say, I am told it's probable. I was going to say possible, but it's probable that Keon Brown will be coming in for his official visit. So that's obviously a big one, because I think there's been some rumors. Obviously, being a Tallahassee guy, I think there's been some Coach Prime conversation, that kind of stuff. I don't know how valid it is, but there, those rumors, people just start connecting dots sometimes. But I'm told he is expected to come in. I know people have asked, well, what about Peyton Bowen? Not Peyton Bowen. I lost my whole train of thought there, but no. So Keon Brown should be there as far as guys that are unexpected. What's going to be interesting is what they're going to do with portal guys, because I am told there won't be a lot of in-home visits over the weekend, like you saw last weekend. Like I mentioned, David Hicks hosting Todd Bates, that kind of stuff. It kind of sounds like it's going to be all hands on deck this weekend. And while it's a good weekend, you've really only got one uncommitted guy confirmed coming in this weekend. So it makes you think, like, you would assume Deshaun McCullough will probably come in with his brother. That makes a lot of sense. And you wonder about some of these other portal guys. Now, I know, like, Dante Cephas is expected to be at Penn State. I haven't heard a lot of names yet, like of guys that will be in, but there's definitely a possibility of some portal guys coming in this weekend as well. So it feels like a little bit, like I said, like an all hands on deck kind of situation. So we'll watch and see what happens, but there's just not many guys that haven't already used their official visits. And some of the ones that might, are either still playing or they have a visit set up. Now, what I will say is Khalil Barnes, the defensive back that it was down to OU, Clemson, and Notre Dame. I talked to him this morning. He informed me that he will not be visiting Oklahoma this weekend or next, which, the writing's pretty much on the wall there. So we will, everybody's kind of expected that to be Notre Dame for a little, Clemson for a little while. So I think that's what you're going to see play out. A kid from Georgia, good player. I like him a lot on tape. I'm a little surprised OU didn't press a little harder, but it makes me wonder, kind of what they're thinking with CJ Colden, Jaden Davis, some of the guys that could come back. Maybe those are a little more optimistic scenarios and when they got involved with him, they weren't sure. And now they're kind of seeing, okay, yeah, those guys are probably going to be back for its next year.
You think about Coach Prime. Half of me wants it to succeed and be like the show that everybody thinks it is. The other half of me wants to see it fail, not just miserably,
Burned
but
to the
like
ground.
Maybe people like get arrested by the end of it all.
My whole
Because I find him to be quite insufferable, but I also am highly, highly entertained by Deion Sanders at the same time.
At some point, like, you can say all this, like, oh, he's doing, like, he was, he was going to build up HBCUs and that sort of stuff. Like, at some point, he's shown you who he is. Like, he's going to do what's best for him, and that's fine. Like, but the people that choose to let themselves keep getting played, that's on you. That's not on him. Like, if you're going to believe that he's out for you and everybody, stop. That's not what it's about.
There's no cause bigger than his wallet.
Yes, and that's fine. Like that.
Maybe
like,
not
I'm
even
not
his wallet,
judging him
just
for
like
that.
people knowing that it's Deion.
Yeah, there's a lot of nepotism there.
100%. Like, and because he's Deion, he doesn't get called on all that
Narcissism
crap. Like,
is what I meant,
Yeah,
not
sure.
nepotism. I don't know why I said nepotism.
I don't know. He did bring in a son, so
Yeah, there's that
some
too. There's
nepotism
that.
too.
well, one of them, the other one, he's like, the other one, I'm kind of mad. I'm like, dang, like, that's your kid, man. Like, I get if you're mad, but like, you're going to air your laundry in the press conference? I don't know about all that. I mean, because I always talk glowingly about my children here on the podcast, so maybe I have no room to talk anything.
We'll see
Here's-
how
here's-
Morgan Pearson does there.
Here's where I think it gets tricky with him is
Portal.
he's trying to make this also like a media company around him. Like, and if he's playing it up for the cameras all the time and the players can see through the bullshit and they don't feel like he's genuine, like it has a chance of going really, really wrong.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like I said, I don't see any way. To me, he's either playing for the Pac-12 title in 3 years or he's fired. Like that's like, I think it's going to be that extreme one way or the other. I don't know which way it's going to go.
I mean,
I love
he
his
had
offensive
5
coordinator
star-
hire. Like, he's made some good hires.
He had a 5-star at a HBCU. I mean, that's like if you had a 5-star at North Dakota State. I don't even know if that's right. It's more like it'd be more like UCO. I mean,
Well, the fact that he stole away from Florida State, it was incredible at the time.
yeah, he
Yes,
stole
it
away
was.
from Florida, but
His-
like
his
he was
school-
winning not because he was had genius coaches and schemes. He had better talent than everybody else in that division, whatever you want to call it.
The SWAC is a bad conference to begin. Like, it is underfunded. I like a lot of the things that he went in saying he was going to fix need to be fixed. Like, he's not wrong about that. Like, there is a lot of bad management within that conference. There's no question about it. But at the same time, like, you're right, Carey. Like, you get 4 or 5 players that are Alabama bounce backs or Auburn bounce backs that would never have played in that level. They would never have played in that conference if it wasn't for Dion being the head coach. It masks a lot of stuff. Like, it makes up for a lot of shortcomings when your talent is just so far beyond what anybody else has. I mean, you're not. His 10th best player is probably miles better than anybody else in the league. Like, that's you should be killing everybody. You should be running away from everybody. When you go to Colorado and you start taking ULM bounce backs to be your starting offensive line, it ain't going to play the same.
No.
Like, Oregon's going to kick you in the face. Utah's not putting up with any of that crap. Like, so it's going to be interesting. Like, I see arguments either way because, I mean, he is clearly a special recruiter. Like, I mean, and some of it's just namesake. I get that. But, man, it doesn't matter how you get them there. You just get them there. And he does a hell of a job with it.
I mean, look, it could be kind of a – I think his ceiling is like Lincoln Riley. Like, you might have some of the best players in the country, but there's always going to be something about your team
missing.
lacking.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Whether that's offensive line, defense, defensive lineman, pass rush. He's got to prove that he can build a team capable of winning a conference championship. Because he's going up against people like the Alabamas of the world that are spending millions and millions and millions of dollars.
Sure.
Is there any question that he's absolutely the best hire Colorado could have ever hoped for?
Yeah, because who wanted that job? Unless you made a dramatic hire.
Guys, we're a
it's a Hail
Oklahoma
Mary.
podcast talking Colorado football.
Sure.
Like,
I
the
just
free advertising is insane.
I mean, I find that interesting just as much. I find the Kenny Dillingham stuff at Arizona State and what he's trying to do, putting together his staff with Brian Carrington and Rashad Samples. Like, those motherfuckers are going to cheat their ass off out there, and nobody's going to say anything. We've already seen that Arizona State doesn't care about cheating to a certain extent.
No,
and
they got away
Arizona
with
State can get you in.
Yeah, like the standards to get into Arizona State. It's like, do you do math? Well, just not occasionally. Okay, you can get in.
I mean, it's the biggest party school in America for a reason. Dumb, hot girls everywhere.
I think they're just whores. I think that's just what it is.
It's like Texas Tech, but sunnier.
Somebody's listening to this while he's like signing his daughter's tuition check to Arizona State, and he is pissed right now.
Well, sir, I got some bad news. Your daughter's probably over.
Isn't that where? Isn't that where the Girls Gone Wild felon started out?
Oh, Joe Francis?
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me if it was at Arizona State. That wouldn't surprise me at all.
Who's now on the
It
run,
makes all the
apparently.
sense in the world.
Yeah, I think he's in. I actually think he's out of prison right now, but I don't know that for a fact. I don't keep up with Joe Francis.
He is
too
a
much anymore.
USC alum.
Oh, is he really?
Nice.
Why don't they put him on a flyer?
Yeah, now that Baker's out in L.A., do you think Lincoln's going to try and get him to come by and
I'm sure.
talk to the team and stuff?
I'm sure he will.
Do you feel like I feel like Baker would do it so long as there was no cameras on him? Like, don't show me here. I'll do it because I got respect for you, but we're not doing a promo for USC.
I think he's smart enough not to do it. I mean, he's got a healthy future just being an OU hero. He's got a statue on campus now. No matter what happens to him and Kyler in the pros, they're always going to be legends here.
Yeah.
And everybody wears Baker's jerseys still. You go to the game.
Oh, I think
there's more Baker jerseys than anything else.
Of the recent, quote unquote era, he's the most beloved.
Yeah.
I think, for my age people, it might have been Sam for a long time. But Baker is definitely kind of taking the mantle as, I think, most beloved Sooner right now. There's no doubt.
All right, I know Bob's got to get out of here, so we will bring it to. We're not blaming Bob for ending the podcast.
Oh, I am. I had plenty more to get into.
I was ready for 45 more minutes, but Bob ruined everything.
Okay,
just going to talk recruiting.
That's what I'm here for.
Portal.
No, it's going to be interesting to see what happens here over the next couple of weeks. It's and then you build up into the bowl game, and obviously, I don't know. Right now, I kind of think they're going to get their ass kicked. I don't know what really they have. But we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, and we got to find out what Florida State, their numbers are going to look. I mean,
I don't think Snoop Menace is going to steal any shoes in between now and then.
So, yeah, I mean, it's every program's facing it, and everybody's getting, hit in some way. So, but like you said, we started the show, Josh. I mean, Mike Norvell's doing a great job there. He's kind of turned things around. They're on the ups.
Under the radar a little bit.
Yeah.
Like 9-3. It's like Florida State damn near would have made the 12-team playoff.
Yeah, they would have been close.
It's crazy to talk about it like that because they were dead for so long. But
they were 4-3, and they lost the only 3 games that people cared about in the middle of that season. Because then going down the stretch, like, all right, they just
I can't remember. Didn't Clemson kind of have an easy time with him?
They beat him by 3, I believe.
Oh, was that it?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, if I remember right, Clemson got up early, and then and Florida State pulled it back and made it pretty interesting at the end. But I want to say it was like 27-21 or somewhere in that ballpark. I'm at 34-28.
I mean, what I would not want to be doing right now is, being responsible for the Clemson fan base because they essentially threw away a season so that Dabo didn't have to bench his 5-star quarterback.
And he's never benched a decent starter to bring on a super talented young guy and had any success with that. So I don't know why he would look into that track record at all. Like you'd get it if like he'd been burned by it before, but I'm like, this has worked for you. What are you doing?
Yeah. All right. Well, that's going to do it. We will be back again next week, if not sooner, if something major big happens. That could always be the case. So stay tuned. Just keep checking the website, Crimson Corner, Soonerscoopstore.com. Go check it out. We're going to try and get up some stuff here this week for you guys if you were looking for some Christmas deals. So I've been working on that the last couple of days. Eddie is just raking in his thousands as we speak. So appreciate you purchasing all the stuff in the store.
It's all going to heroin. I'm into heroin right now for the holiday season.
So that's going to do it. We'll be back again next week for another edition of the Unofficial 40 podcast from Soonerscoop.com.